Thanks for staying with us. Time now for Africa News with me, Georgia Calvin-Smith. Tonight, thousands of Muslims flee Central African Republic in fear for their lives. The Prime Minister says that authorities will try and do what it can to guarantee the safety of Muslims targeted by increasing sectarian violence. Also, we hear from the leader of Libya's Togo tribe, who says that the weak central government is doing little to protect his people. And finally, Togo takes to the ski slopes. The first year ever it is sending athletes to the Winter Olympics. 2 women will be taking part in the 10K cross-country in Sochi. First up, we head to Bangui, where crowds of Christians cheered and pelted a convoy of terrified Muslims with stones as they fled for their lives on Friday. As 500 vehicles made their way towards Chad, one man who fell off a departing truck was killed and his body mutilated by the angry mob. Accused of collaborating with rebels who took over the country last year, Muslims across Central African Republic have increasingly faced attack amidst sectarian violence. Many say that they now have to leave the country because they have no one to protect them. While earlier today, the country's interim Prime Minister insisted that authorities would not abandon the Muslim population.
We will guarantee the security of those who remain. But we will do the same for those who have left us. Because many foreign Muslim residents have left the country. And you know how important this community is with regards to the economic health of our country.
However, for many Muslims living in fear of escalating brutality, the risks of staying in Central African Republic are already too high. Our correspondent sent us this report.
Hundreds of trucks, several thousand displaced people poured out of Bangui, the largest such convoy to date. Muslims fleeing the Central African Republic en masse, heading for Chad. They fled violence in the south and west of the country, and even the capital Bangui. A veritable exodus.
Even entire districts of Bangui are being emptied of their Muslim populations. They have ceased to exist as the population fleds or is killed, and their houses are dismantled. Their historic presence here is being erased off the map.
There are still thousands of people, Muslims, who come to this site near the airport in Bangui every day hoping to leave for the north. They're from the capital, but also from southern and western parts of the country.
We want to go back home because we are Central African citizens, but our grandparents had Chadian roots. So if there's a chance to head to Chad, we'll take it.
Today in Bangui, but also in the south and in the west, there are no more Muslims. So we want to go north to be able to practice our religion.
All these Muslims have fled to refugee camps, saying they're targets of the Christian anti-Balaka militias. For them, getting out is a question of life or death. They're waiting for an operational flight, another convoy of trucks, any means possible to head towards the north of the country.
Well, the scale of bloodshed from both Christian and former rebel militia has led the International Criminal Court to today open a preliminary investigation into possible war crimes in Central African Republic. In other news, Mali says it's handed a reconciliation roadmap for the country to the UN Security Council, and that talks with northern Tuareg separatists could restart as soon as next week. Since elections that followed the turnaround of an Islamist invasion last year, negotiations have stalled. The UN's warned that failure to reach a political deal risks radicalising fighters anew. Well, whilst in Paris, Premier Omar Tatamlai outlined plans for meetings aimed at getting various groups and factions talking again.
The first workshop could examine past agreements and learn from them, notably how to avoid repeating our past failures. The second should look at the military confinements and the DDR process, disarmament, demobilization, reintegration. And the third should be on working out a fair redeployment of the administration and social services in northern Mali.
Relations also remain tense between northern tribes themselves. On Friday, around 30 Tuaregs were killed around the region of Gao in fighting with ethnic Poles. Disputes over access to grazing land for cattle is one of the reasons behind increasing conflict between the communities. World leaders, including the French president, were in Tunis on Friday as Tunisia held a ceremony for the formal adoption of a hard-fought constitution. It's been lauded as one of the most progressive charters for an Arab nation. After the country's 2011 revolution, a political crisis held up passage of the constitution. It was, though, finally greenlit by coalition lawmakers last month. In Tripoli today, thousands took to the streets to protest against a decision by the interim government to extend its mandate. Now, it's struggled to maintain a grip on security since the toppling of Muammar Gaddafi in 2011, and many Libyans are growing increasingly frustrated. In the south, clashes between Arabs and Tubu nomads have claimed over 100 victims. Speaking to France 24, the leader of the Tubus expressed his impatience with Tripoli's leadership.
The violence in southern Libya is between Arab militias and the Tubus, who are black nomads. They live in this region, but also in Niger and Chad. In the south's biggest town, Sabha, heavy weapons were used. The head of the Tubus was in Paris this Friday, and he told France 24 the situation was catastrophic.
We call on French human rights NGOs to come to southern Libya. The area is besieged. There is no milk for the children, no water, no food.
He says that after the French military intervention in Mali, jihadists fled to southern Libya and even to Tripoli.
Al-Qaeda has a heavy presence in Libya. In the future, they will use diplomatic passports to go to France, the UK and the US. Before it's too late, France must attack Al-Qaeda and save the Tubu people from ethnic cleansing, just like France saved the Libyans from Gaddafi in 2011.
The Tubus' cry for help might have been heard. A few days ago, the head of the French army, who's leaving soon, said an international intervention in southern Libya would be wise. He believes it could prevent the creation of a new terrorist hub in the region.
South African mining company Harmony Gold says that 2 more of its employees have died in separate accidents this week. That's on top of the 8 who lost their lives in a rockfall and blaze at the Dawn Cop mine. One of the latest fatalities was buried in earth at a site in Northwest Province, the other in a blasting accident at Joel Mine in Free State Province. Harmony says it's shutting down its mines for a day to review its security procedures. Staying with South Africa, there's trouble in townships that appears to be on the rise. The neighbourhoods surrounding Johannesburg and Pretoria has seen over 100 violent protests in the last 3 months, sparked by local issues such as water shortages or logistical problems. The unrest is fueling concerns of wider instability and is being increasingly directed at the ruling ANC party, something President Jacob Zuma will be trying to address ahead of elections, which have now been set for the 7th of May. And finally, Togo takes to the ski slopes. For the first year ever, it's sending athletes to the Winter Olympics. 2 women, Alessia Afi-Dipol, an alpine skier who lives in Italy, and Mathilde de Petitjean, who will both take part in the 10-kilometre cross-country event. Mathilde has been living in France since she was 2. Thanks to her Togolese origins, she's getting to see her dreams come true.
Hi, I'm Mathilde Petitjean. I'm 18 years old and I'm representing Togo at the Winter Olympics in Sochi. For any athlete, the Olympics are an accomplishment of a career. It's a dream. When you're young, you dream of going to the Olympics. And well, I'm living that reality. I'm going to the Olympics.
This is one for the record. Mathilde Petitjean will defend the colors of Togo at the Winter Games in Sochi. Mathilde was born in Togo but lives in France. Mathilde has been doing cross-country skiing since she was 12. She practices 6 days a week at the Haute-Savoie alpine slopes of Plateau de Glières. Mathilde is signed up for the 10 kilometers and the sprint in Sochi. She is far from a favorite for a medal, but her coach is proud of her and her role at the game.
It's a dream opportunity. As a French national, it would have been very, very hard to go.
Mathilde Petitjean gets no financing from Togo's National Olympic Committee, and she's still looking for sponsors.
Well, good luck to you, Mathilde. Well, that wraps up African news from me for this hour. I will be back, though, with more from the continent in 60 minutes. Stay with us, though. Short break, and we will be joined by Cyril Vanier, who will be bringing us more news and headlines from across the world. Thanks for watching.